Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday the 18th, and we're here for round two of the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship at a very grey and drizzly-looking Red Bull Ring up in the foothills of the Austrian Alps around about Spielberg. And these guys are going to be tackling on the Red Bull Ring national layout for today's race. And it's going to be coming thick and fast as we just complete the practice session with Dan looking though he's out on top, breaking into the sub 53 second mark on his laps. Let's see whether or not we can hot things up when we get into qualifying. Whilst we're just getting ready for those drivers making their way out. Huge apologies for the technical issues that marred the end of last week's race for our season opener. I was actually disconnected from that one, so I only found out the actual results a few minutes after the session had ended. Pro Fubby actually came out on top of that one as predicted. He came away with a triple crown in that one, fastest lap and pole position, scooping up 37 points in total to put him at the top of the championship table coming into race two. Dan did pick up second place in the end. That secured him 30 points, so he's second in the championship with Al Axon in third position. He was sniffing around for that final podium spot, and he did end up getting it in the end for the team Air Bubbles. Renault Megane. Linga Bazinga came up in fourth with Kovkarl in fifth. Snarling Bongo in sixth position with Chris 94 M Sport making it up into seventh. Wardy in 8th position in the end with Porsche Man in 9th, Green Gaming in 10th, and Spankmeyer marred by engine issues due to some coolant issues. Not sure whether or not it was the radiator or whether or not he sustained some front end damage, but he ended up taking a lengthy pit stop, and that was good enough for last place on the day, which was 11th position. So he finds himself at the bottom of the championship standings table, but there are quite a few other drivers that have scored no points at all, so they're yet to post their positions. But on to race. Let's see who's going to come out on top of this one. Dan set the fastest lap in the practice session, but that's just going to spur on Pro Fubby, I'm sure, to try and pick up yet another pole position and get that crucial bonus point. As well as that, Linga Bazinga was looking pretty darn quick as well. We are just tracking round Al Axon. Pro Fubby has gone purple in Sector 1, purple in Sector 2 though, so it does look as though Pro Fubby is going to be the first one to set a pole lap here. And just for a bit of information, the current weather charts are looking like we're going to have a wet start to this race. Currently dry here, but very, very overcast indeed in Spielberg, Austria, and it looks as though we are definitely going to have a wet start to this one. Really changeable weather conditions across most of Europe. We've had torrential rain followed by glorious sunshine here up in the north of England, but looks as though Austria suffering the same fate. With 17 minutes left of qualifying, these qualifying grid times are going to be vitally important for a wet start to the race. Dan is still out on top. Pro Fubby's purple Sector 1 and Sector 2 wasn't enough, and Dan is going even quicker this time. It looks as though he might well be able to break into the 52 seconds, and there it is, 52.632 from Dan VWB. The young driver came in, made an instant impact in his first race. Let's switch on over to him. We can just see him there in the number 2 Momo course. In fact, I beg your pardon, it's the number 1 of that livery type in the red and yellow. Keep your eyes peeled for him. He's certainly looking pretty quick. Just finding himself in a bit of traffic now with those drivers under no obligation to move along because they are also on a hot lap. That is actually Chris 94 M Sport in the Team Graventech Vauxhall Astra. Nice and easy to spot him in the orange and silver livery. He's the only one brave enough, or maybe daft enough, to be running in the Vauxhall Astra. I know that I've put in a season in that car, and although it feels real tight, it's definitely lacking a little bit of power in comparison to the Renault Megane and the BMW. But it's Dan in pole position, followed by Linga Bazinga. Pro Fubby in third place at the moment, with Spankmeyer in fourth. Let's have a look at him. Looks as though he's also encountered some traffic, which is so easy to do around this Südschleife track layout here at the Red Bull Ring. Only 6 turns, 1.45 miles with 2.336 kilometers if you're that way inclined. And if I bring up the track map, you can see quite a few bunches of drivers. You can just see it looks as though that is Old Smoky in the Mist Engineering BMW there, just moving alongside. And Spankmeyer looks as though he's making some improvements this time around. Let's have a look. Green in Sector 1 with 17.756. Let's have a look at his Sector 2 time as that comes over and begins. Real quick sectors along this short circuit. These laps are going to come thick and fast, and any mistakes are going to be very, very costly indeed on what is going to be some pretty changeable track conditions. Rain is expected at the start of the race. It should be pretty quick to dry out with 15 cars on the grid and setting laps. Thick and fast. Spankmeyer comes in the end, third position. You can just see him there running in the draft of his teammate. That is Wardy in 5th position at the moment, and Pro Fubby looks as though he's just struggling to get the real consistent, super quick laps that we come to expect from him. Meanwhile, Linga Bazinga has actually gone into pole position, beating Dan's time by over 1/4 of a second. So this is looking like an absolute bomb of a qualifier here at the Red Bull Ring. Everybody changing places. We focus up on Linga Bazinga as he just begins one of his outlaps. Having a look at the timing boards at the moment, looks as though Spankmeyer was on for an improvement. Looks as though his Sector 2 just let him down as we switched over to Linga Bazinga, so maybe the commentator's curse working in the opposite way that time. Camera switch from him, looks as though he just slowed down ever so slightly. Let me know your predictions for the race, or maybe even the predictions for this qualifier. It definitely doesn't look as though it's going to be a dead cert here. And also let me know whereabouts you're watching us here tonight. I can see we've got a couple of live viewers at the moment. I'm just trying to pull up the stream on my laptop just so I can try and check out your comments as you type them. 13 minutes remaining inside this session though. Just taking a look at the telemetry, looks as though Kovkarl has made a little bit of an improvement. He's currently sat in 7th position. Would expect him to be able to tidy it up together. Looks as though Sector 2 letting Kovkarl down here. And it's not going to be a hot one for Linga Bazinga. Sector 1 definitely looks as though it's falling down. You can see how little fuel they're currently running inside this, just to try and get every little bit of performance out of that car as much as possible. Let's have a flip on over to Dan. He'll be hungry for that pole position. Currently running in second, is on a hot lap. Just about to get that one started again, and you can see the real traffic building up on site. Any of the cars that are out on a outlap will move alongside for any of those drivers out on a hot one. Check your screen for anybody with the lights on. That indicates that the drivers are on a hot lap, and anybody with their lights off should move alongside and try and keep out the way as much as possible. Doesn't look as though Dan's going to be able to get it done this time though. His Sector 1 and Sector 2 was slightly slower. Snarling Bongo's made an improvement though to put him up into 9th position. He then returned to the pits and he's not come back out yet. 12 minutes left to go here, as looks as though Dan did actually make a really marginal improvement there. You just hear him bouncing off the limiter on the way down into turn 1. Really screwing that Renault Megane around as much as he can, trying to wring out as much, but bouncing on the limiter has cost him dearly. Half a second down in Sector 1. Let's have a look at what Pro Fubby's doing in the number 55 in Mochi. Looks as though he's got a little bit of traffic. We'll jump into the chase cam. Looks as though he's far enough away for it to not really impair him. These cars not really known for their downforce, so you're not going to get too much dirty air off the back of them. You will be able to pick up a tow along the 2 straights around this circuit. The exit of turn 1 into turn 2, not really the best for it. You're actually going slightly downhill into some pretty heavy braking, so you have to use a little bit of caution on that one, especially as the track is wet. Let's see what Pro Fubby can put in this last lap around. Currently 6/10 away from the pole position lap of Linga Bazinga. Track temperatures are actually pretty good. Let's not forget that we are in the 18th of May here in Spielberg, Austria, so the temperatures are what you'd expect for the end of spring, despite those overcast conditions that you can see on your screen. Just having a look for any movers and shakers. Looks as though Linga Bazinga has actually gone green in Sector 1. Keeping an eye out for his Sector 2 times. Booth Jumbo is also making improvements as well. He's down in 9th place at the moment. Green in Sector 1, green in Sector 2. Let's see where he can get up to as he comes over the line. Looks as though Linga Bazinga has just let himself go ever so slightly, and Booth Jumbo up into 3rd position. It was looking like a real tasty lap, and that's been enough to knock Spankmeyer and Pro Fubby down a position. Great lap there from the new entry. He is going to be a permanent fixture for the remainder of the season. Came in last week to replace some of the drivers that were a no-show, and it looks as though he's going to really try and pick up where he left off at the very end of last season. Booth Jumbo there putting in a great lap. He's half a second away from Linga Bazinga, but it looks as though he's matching the general pace of everybody else. In fact, he's going quicker even still in Sector 1 and Sector 2 on this last lap. Let's have a look around him, running in the Console's classic Team ACR livery. It looks as though he's just picking up a bit of a draft there off Chris 94 M Sport. Look how tasty this will be into Turn 1. Give you a bit of a good idea. It looks as though he's just pulled away from it and allowed Chris 94 M Sport to return through as he heads back to the pits. Maybe top up his fuel, change those tyres, and he's going to have another bash at it. Go on over to Linga Bazinga now. Currently in pole position. He ends up returning into it. Looks as though he was going out on an outlap. Maybe just came in because he wasn't really in a good position with a bit of traffic ahead of him. Perhaps maybe just making another little bit of an adjustment as he comes out for his outlap. Let's have a look over to Dan. Dan is also on an outlap from the state of those tyres. Tell you what, let's pick it up. Snarling Bongo, actually. He's currently setting a green Sector 1 in the BMW. Running in the number 28 SRT here, Snarling Bongo. Did really well last week to pick up a 6th position. What's he going to be able to do this time around? Beg your pardon, I've got it down as an SRT. It's most definitely not on that screen. So Snarling Bongo comes across the line. It's no improvement in the end. Let's see what he can make into it. The BMW definitely not going to be one of the pick of the cars for this short twisty track. He's definitely going to have an advantage going up into Turn 1, but that is pretty much where the advantage falls, apart from when it comes down to tyre wear. And don't forget, we're set for a wet start to this race. It will dry out later on, so most of the grid will be expected to complete a pit stop to change over those wets for dries as soon as the track is ready for it. Tell you what though, the BMW will be pretty well set up for next week's race. We continue our little European tour for the first half of this season, heading over to Imola's GP circuit for next week, and the BMW should come into its own on that one. Pro Fubby looks as though he's just hooking together a lap as Snarling Bongo also makes an improvement up into 7th place for the Dutchman there. Marginal improvements. Pro Fubby has gone green in Sector 1. Looks as though his Sector 2 isn't too far away from those at the top of the grid either. Let's see whether or not he can make an improvement. Looks as though this could be good for maybe 4th place, possibly even 3rd. It's across the line. Looks as though it's Sector 2 and 3 that's let him down there. Continues to remain in 5th position with 6 minutes remaining. I can already tell you, ladies and gents, that my voice is going to be absolutely gone by the end of this. What a classic touring car battle. We're well set up for today here in round 2. Can't be a short track with door-to-door action, that's for sure. A little bit of rain thrown in there just to really mix shit up as well. 5 minutes remain, and remember folks, if you're watching this with green eyes of envy and you fancy getting involved in our racing here at Flux Motorsport, all you need to do is remember the website. Of course, it's www.fluxmotorsport.com, and in there you'll be able to find a link to our Discord. Click that link and you'll be greeted in by all of our community basically, as soon as you've filled in our welcome form. Also, if you just want to keep up to date with all of the goings on throughout this season and maybe catch up with some of the stuff last season, be sure to hit the subscribe button to the YouTube channel that you're currently watching us on. And if you want to make sure that you don't miss any of the action at all, then be sure to hit the bell icon to receive your notifications. Of course, you'll be able to find us as well on all mainstream social medias. Just hit Flux Motorsport in Instagram, Facebook or Twitter. Hit them in all three if you're really feeling adventurous. And of course, you can head on over to our website for all of your merchandise needs. But for now, 5 minutes remaining inside this session. Linga Bazinga in pole position. Dan has been unable to shift him, although he is getting closer and closer. So is Booth Jumbo. He was half a second away. He's now cut that down to just quarter of a second. In fact, less than quarter of a second. Whereas Profubby sits in fourth place. Has been able to overtake Spankmeyer, but he still sits just over half a second away from Linga Bazinga's rather hot lap. Spankmeyer in fifth position with Luke Veedy Streets. He's in sixth place. He's since returned to the pits. He's actually going to be running in Lecky's McGann, I believe, this time around. Oh, no, beg your pardon. No, he's actually in the number 19 PCCF. I do beg your pardon. It's actually S2N Remy who's going to be running in Lecky's number 2 Momo Corsa. Lecky unable to make the race tonight, but S2N Remy jumped at the chance to it, and to make it a little bit easier, so I'm not trying to pick out a new one. I've assigned him the number 2, because who doesn't like to see an angry little wasp out on track in the touring cars? Other new driver in the form of Darnell looks as though he's currently struggling. He's 3.7 seconds away from the pace of the rest of the drivers, and finding himself in the BMW. Not the easiest car to handle, and you can see him there just waving Chris 94 M Sport. And who else is that we've got going past? I think it's Linga Bazinga and Profubby as well, just flashing his lights, giving them plenty of space. So let's get back up to where all the hot action is. Linga Bazinga has since returned to the pits. Dan has made an improvement. Look at that. 65 thousandths of a second away from the hot lap of Linga Bazinga. Still just not enough. As he comes in, he's going to have a couple of final bites. He's got 7 litres worth of fuel. That should be enough for 2 or 3 laps. Let's have a look over to Booth Jumbo. Remarkable laps here, and look how close some of these lap times are. We've got the top 10 of the field in and around 1 second of one another, and the rain will start to come down in the next 5 minutes or so. So if you think about how much rain affects any circuit, especially one with only 6 turns and a pretty heavy couple of braking zones, that 1 second difference could be completely wiped away. 2 minutes remaining inside this session though. Linga Bazinga in first position so far. Dan in second, but very, very close. Booth Jumbo, the guy that we're currently following around in the Actrol Vision, number 8, is just shy of 2/10. In fact, just under 2/10 away from Linga Bazinga's time as well. And he is out on track. Not currently on a hot one, but he will be pretty soon, as we see him there just catching a little bit of rear oversteer, and then the front end just biting, giving him a little bit of a wobble. Profubby has gone green in Sector 1. Sector 2, he's actually showing up as a white time though, and Spankmeyer has since leapfrogged him, pushed him back down into 5th. Let's see whether or not Profubby can get it together in Sector 3, maybe take back that 4th position. doesn't look as though he can. Not this time around. 1 minute remaining. All of those guys in the pits aren't going to be able to set another lap time unless they get out, well, 10 seconds ago. So I don't think it's going to work. So that is Linga Bazinga done in this session, as well as Spankmeyer. Luke is also finished for the session. Snarling Bongo, Chris 94M Sport, Kovkarl, Darnell and Old Smoky. Their session is over with. Keeping an eye out on Booth Jumbo. He's going to have one more shot at this one. He's 7/10 away though on that last lap around. Let's see whether or not he can pull something out of the bag here and at the death. Sector 1 times for Dan is not looking too great. It's neither looking good for Booth Jumbo, so it looks as though Linga Bazinga might well have this one in the bag, ladies and gents. Bonus point will go to him, so it's 35 points for the win, but you will also get 1 bonus point for pole position, and as well a bonus point for getting the fastest lap of the race. Just hear him there dropping the gear, trying to use as much of the circuit as the race director will allow them. I do expect some race director penalties to be applied come the end of this session. So we'll keep our eye out for penalties when we get a chance to breathe, if we get a chance to breathe throughout this race. But that is the session pretty much done. There are a couple of drivers left out on track, but as they return to the pits, in fact it looks as though Dan is still on for a hot one. It's not going to be an improvement, I don't think, but it will just be a final little bit of practice. And across the line from Dan, enough to take pole position. Oh, what an absolute blinder that was. At the absolute death, he comes in and takes it with a 52.305 versus Linga Bazinga's 52.333. Somebody get that man a mid-strength beer and let him get his feet up for a couple of minutes, because that is an absolute blinder. Dan VWB comes in to take pole position in the end from the Belgian. Linga Bazinga in second place, followed by Booth Jumbo and Spankmeyer in third and fourth. Pro Fubby, for the first time I think I've ever seen it, in the third row here with Luke Streets alongside him. Out on his debut here, Luke Streets as well. So we've got a pretty strong Dutch contingent in the form of Linga Bazinga, Luke Streets, Mr. M. Ward, aka Wardy, is in 7th place, and then another one of our Dutchmen in Snarling Bongo in 8th place. Al Haxon with a bit of a disappointing qualifying there. Let's see whether or not he can make it up during the race. 9th position from him, and he's got Chris 94M Sport in the Vauxhall Astra alongside him. Kovkarl also with a bit of a disappointing qualification. Perhaps these guys have mainly worked on their wet setups in anticipation of the weather, but Porscheman joins alongside Kovkarl in 12th place. S2N Remy, our final Dutchman, in 13th place, followed by Darnell, and then Old Smoky at the back in the Mist Engineering BMW. So as ever, ladies and gents, 2 minutes worth of tinker time for these drivers to get themselves set up, get their pit strategies worked on. In the meantime, let's have a little look and a reminder, as we can see the rain now coming down here in Spielberg. It is only predicted for the first quarter of this race, so it should ease up, but it's certainly going to make things pretty tasty. So Linga Bazinga does actually end up in pole position. He will pick up the bonus point. Dan looks as though he got a one-place grid penalty. So Linga Bazinga takes pole position in the number 25 Hakeem Renault Megane. Dan in the number 1 Momo Corsa. Booth Jumbo in the number 8 Team ACR Renault Megane. Let me just jump into the chase cam to make these a little bit easier to spot. Spankmeyer in the SRT. Keep an eye out for him in the number 66 after his disappointing start last time. Pro Fubby in the number 55 Emochi, followed by Luke in the number 19 PCCF. Wardy in the number 66 SRT. And then Snarling Bongo in the SRT BMW. Al Axon in the number 11 Air Bubbles, followed by Chris 94 M Sport in the Team Grabantech Astra number 35. Kovkarl in his classic number 20 PCCF, and Porsche Man in the number 86 Monster Energy. Esteban Remy running in Lecky's number 2 Momo Corsa, followed by Darnell in the 68 Eibach BMW. And at the back of the pack, it's number 72 with Old Smoky in Mist Engineering. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen, 45 minutes of action here at the Red Bull Ring Suchlifer circuit, and we are green light and away we go. A relatively sort of sedate start, it seems, from Dan, as all of these drivers want to use caution coming into turn 1. Looks as though we've got Spankmeyer having a little look up the inside, and it looks as though Dan coming under challenge there from Booth Jumbo. Looks as though all drivers are away okay. So it's Linga Bazinga leading the race, followed by Dan with Booth Jumbo in third. Pro Fubby now up into fourth place, overtaking Spankmeyer. Snarling Bongo in sixth. Luke dropping down into seventh. So one of the biggest losers in that start. But looks as though he's managed to keep it all together. Wardy in 8th, Al Axon in 9th, Kovkarl in 10th, Chris 94 M Sport actually lost out pretty severely as well. Just a place there, but he's also under pressure from Old Smoky, who's done quite well indeed. Up into 12th place in that BMW. Ahead of Porsche Man, Esteban Remy and Darnell. So it's Linga Bazinga takes us round for the first lap here at a very wet Red Bull Ring. Looks as though we've got Pro Fubby actually having a look up the inside here, and look at the amount of spray that these cars are kicking up. He's going to have to fall back in line. Doesn't want to get himself too caught up, as we see Booth Jumbo and Dan there just having a little run off, and I think that's Dan and Pro Fubby, and a little bit of contact in the cars behind. Booth Jumbo makes contact with the side of Spankmeyer's car, and it's all go here. Let's jump in the cockpit. Let's see what we can see. So this is on board with Booth Jumbo. Spankmeyer ahead of him. That is also Pro Fubby trying to chase down Dan ahead of him. You can barely see Dan with all of this spray as the lights come off. And look how hard it is to judge the braking coming into this. Looks as though Dan is doing his best at defensive driving here, just to try and stem off the attacks of Pro Fubby. Linga Bazinga looks as though he's just building upon a slightly small lead, 1.4 seconds at the moment, and that looks as though it's Spankmeyer having a little look up the inside of Pro Fubby. Looks as though he's got that one done. He runs a little bit wide. Is he going to be able to hook this one together, or is he going to get a race director penalty? You can run quite wide into turn 1, but it looks as though Pro Fubby's been able to hold it together and maintain his momentum, whereas Booth Jumbo collects a load of cones, and he's now under pressure from Luke Streets, it seems. So Linga Bazinga leads the race, down in second, with Pro Fubby in third after that good bit of defensive driving. Just managed to hold his momentum a little bit more than Spankmeyer. It looks as though he just pushed it ever so slightly too late into turn 1. Booth Jumbo is right behind, and Luke Streets is also in that mix as well. All of them looking to try and pick up that third position. Jump into the chase cam. I do try to avoid it, but the spray is just too bad to go into the cockpit. So let's have a look at our drone footage here. Oh, it looks as though was that Spankmeyer. I think it was. Spankmeyer just moved across the side. We see Luke Streets there just holding up, it seems, waiting for him. Definite controversial move. We definitely got the best view in the house for it. Did look as though Spankmeyer just didn't really realise where the front end of Luke Streets' car was. Where's that put him? He's not lost out too much. He's right back up on the exhaust pipes, as it looks as though we've got our first victim. Snarling Bongo's BMW looks absolutely battered there. So that's obviously been a little bit of action, and well, unwanted action for sure, as Snarling Bongo comes in for what looks as though it's going to be a pretty lengthy pit stop. Back over to our leader though. Linga Bazinga now has 1.7 seconds ahead of Dan in second. Pro Fubby in third place, but he is under massive amounts of pressure from Booth Jumbo, who moves up on the inside. Is he going to be able to hold it together, or is Booth Jumbo going to make the same mistake as Spangmeyer does. It looks as though Profubi's been able to hold up the inside line as the two drivers come together. There is a potential for a bit of a cutback here, though, into turn 3. But no, Profubi has stemmed it off and it remains in 3rd place ahead of Booth Jumbo. Spangmeyer also in the running for this, as well as Luke Kovkarl, not too far behind either. Have got a bit of a battle going on further down the pack. This is S2N Remy and his battle with Porscheman at the moment. Darnell has made up a couple of positions after Chris 94 M Sport and Old Smoky have fallen victim, as well as Wardy, it seems. And it looks as though it's all got too much for Snarling Bongo, who retires from the race. The first victim found within the first 5 minutes of this one. Back over to the battle for 3rd. Oh, and it looks as though Luke has just had a little bit of a moment there on the exit of turn 1, just gets his car sideways and then has a little bit of a coming together as well with Spangmeyer. Spangmeyer now under pressure as well. That is Kovkarl in the background in the number 20. So Spangmeyer now moves up the inside. Is he going to be able to hold on to the outside? Looks as though he is, and Kovkarl just picks the pocket there of Luke Streets. Luke Streets just loses out on 2 places in 2 rapid successful corners. Down into 7th position now for the rookie. Still in fighting chances though, and we've seen what a mistake can cost. Just in the first 6 minutes of this race, it can really put you right down the running order. Booth Jumbo looks as though he's been able to get past Profubi, and he's actually built up a 1.2 second lead on it as well, it seems. So it looks as though Profubi's had a bit of a moment. Linga Bazinga, though, continues to lead the race. He's now only got 1.5 seconds lead to Dan, although that might have just been due to braking points on the circuit. It does look as though we've got a battle between the 2 teammates in the PCCF cars. Go over to that. Luke Streets up in 6th place ahead of Kovkarl at the moment, and that's him chasing down Spangmeyer's 5th position. So he did have a bit of a moment, the Dutchman. He's since been able to recover, and he's right back on it again, setting sort of competitive sector times. Last lap around wasn't the quickest. He was a second off the pace of Spangmeyer ahead of him, but his sectors have since improved massively, whereas Linga Bazinga has just set the quickest sector 2 of the race so far. 1.6 seconds the lead at the moment, but we'll continue to look as this battle progresses. Looks as though the rest of the cars are just starting to space out now ever so slightly. Booth Jumbo has a 4-second gap to Dan ahead of him, and Profubi now has 3.5 seconds to make up before he reaches the exhaust pipes of Booth Jumbo. So the front 4 have really started to pace themselves out, whereas all of the battles seem to be going on for 5th place now, as well as a bit of a battle going on right at the back between 12th and 13th, as we see Old Smoky making up a couple of positions there. Darnell dropping down into 12th, and S2N Remy falling down into 13th. 37 minutes gone off this one, and whilst I've got the very slightest of gaps inside this race, let me tell you about what we've got coming up here on Flux Motorsport TV. Of course, on Thursday you'll be able to join DJ Redders for the GT1 Championship. GT1 drivers taking on the Le Mans Bugatti circuit this week around, and a real controversial moment in last week's GT1 race when our race leader in the form of Blankfire was disconnected from that one. He was on an absolute flyer in his Toyota as well. Never what we like to see when a driver loses out like that, but a great race indeed for the fan favourites. You can catch that up on that one on our YouTube channel. Of course, on as we see Luke just running very, very wide there. Just managed to get himself back on track safely, but I think Kovkarl might just take this one. He has. Kovkarl's moved up into 6th place, and he's well clear as well coming into turn 1. As I was saying though, ladies and gents, Friday night we'll see the GTE Championship in our American time zone, so that is 8 PM Eastern Standard Time. If you're hoping to tune into that in Europe, it's going to be around about 1 AM on Saturday morning if you're watching in the UK. but they take on Willow Springs this week, and then the IndyCars also follow suit with a trip around Willow Springs as well. That also runs in the Eastern Standard Time Zone, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, around about 1 a.m. Sunday morning. If you're watching here in the UK, please adjust to your local time zones. As well, huge congratulations to Dirt Rally Pro for winning round one of our brand new Dirt Rally 2.0 championship. You can of course play along no matter which platform you're running on, whether or not that's PlayStation 4 or 5, the Xbox platforms, or of course PC. To join up, all you need to do is sign up to our Discord by heading over to that website, once again www.fluxmotorsport.com, and you can pit yourself against the best of our rally drivers in our 8-round rally championship. 5 stages in each round, one new round every week, with 7 days to complete the whole round. So you can race at your leisure as well, whenever you've got a bit of free time, sort of free yourself from the sort of constraints, I suppose, of lobby type sim racing. So let's have a little look as Pro Fubby looks as though he's about to come under some pressure from Spankmeyer, potentially Luke Streets as well, and Kovkarl. Really dropped away from the pace. He's found himself 6.6 seconds off the back of Booth Jumbo, and now he's in the grip of Spankmeyer and Luke, it seems. Looks as though the rain has since subsided here around Spielberg. It's not expected to come back. The track is still wet though. We are just starting to get a slight inkling of a dry line showing up on some parts. It's still kicking up that spray all over the place in parts of the track, as we've got a ruined missed engineering BMW there. That is Old Smokey in 13th position. We see him just trundling along, and that is going to definitely be an entry into the pit lane, I think. Let's have a look as we see Spankmeyer now moving up onto the inside. You can also see the 2 PCCF cars as well, also side by side with one another, going into turn 1. A little bit of contact there, and it looks as though it's Kovkarl who might well come out of this one in 6th place. Let's have a look. He's not. Luke has been able to hold it off. Luke with the yellow mirror tips, Kovkarl with the sort of turquoise, well, I suppose it's teal green mirror tips in those turquoise and white PCCF cars that you can see just in the background of these two. Wardy looks as though he's into the pits. I can only assume that that is for damage. It certainly looks too wet out there to come in for dry tyres, and he will have definitely been wanting to try and hold off for any pit stops, waiting for when that track is dry. You can see now Pro Fubby going super defensive, trying to block the approaches of Spankmeyer. Let's jump into the cockpit of Spankmeyer. Let's see how close these two really are. You see, not much spray kicking up here. A little bit on the windscreen through certain parts of the track. As Spankmeyer now right up and riding the exhaust pipes of Pro Fubby. You can see though this section of the wet through sector 2 is certainly still kicking up plenty of spray. That is definitely not ready for dry tyres yet, and you could just see a big puddle formed up as well on the exit of turn 4. So Spankmeyer continues to bide his patience. Coming in for those dry tyres is going to be critical now. We're into the first third of this race, as we see Spankmeyer there just getting pushed off the curb, and that just scrubbed off a little bit of his momentum. As we go back trackside and see just a few car lengths have been lost. Let's have a look at what's going on between Kovkarl and his teammate in the form of Luke Street. Now on board with Kovkarl as he tries to position his car up the inside coming into turn 2. He's not going to be able to do it that way. You can't really hug the inside, otherwise you're going to get pushed on the onto the grass come the second part of that turn. Kovkarl holding it together. Luke Streets looks as though he's just having to correct ever so slightly, and that scrubbing speed. There is that big puddle that I just mentioned on the exit, or sort of on the apex almost, of the exit of turn 4. You see there, Luke just running ever so slightly wide. Kovkarl having to change his approach, and they both run a little bit deep coming out on the final corner. So Dan is into the pits. That has got to be a tyre change there for Dan, who was running second in this one. Looks as though Old Smoky is in. That's definitely a damage repair. Some rather substantial aerodynamic adjustment on the front of that Mist Engineering BMW. Dan looks as though he is away. Definitely a bold move coming in for dry tyres, but this could be where he ends up really making an absolute blinding decision. If he thinks that he can run out on the dries on this one, this could be where he ends up taking it from Linga Bazinga, who is also into the pit. So Dan has got basically a lap to make up as Linga comes in, stops in time, and there is going to be a tyre change on that one. So Booth Jumbo is the new race leader as we broach the 30 minutes remaining mark of this race. Profubby now in second, and around about 10 seconds back to Booth Jumbo at the moment. Spankmeyer is being pushed up into third place, but all of the cars running at the front are still on wet tyres, I believe. Dan will be the first driver out on track on the slicks. He's currently running in 10th place. Looks as though he might just be coming up to the approach of Linga Bazinga as Linga Bazinga makes his way out of the pits. Is Dan going to be able to take this position? This is going to be pretty crucial to the way that the race runs out. I think Linga Bazinga is going to take it. He has indeed. That is Linga that we can just see in the foreground. So Linga Bazinga in 9th is the current suspected race leader out on those dry tyres. And we can see how dry the line is throughout this first sector. A little bit of spray coming up in the second. You can just see Dan there getting a bit of a wriggle on as he hits that wet part of the circuit. Continue to have a look at how these dry tyres are performing. Midway through the second sector looks to be pretty clear. Let's have a look what it's like through the third and final sector. A few more sprays of water. Not too much though. So I think they have probably come in and around about the right time. Both of the drivers coming in around about the 30-minute mark. The start-finish straight looks as though it's still kicking up little bits and pieces of water. But other than that, looks to be pretty good. So Booth Jumbo continues to lead the race. Profubby in second, Spankmeyer in third. And it looks as though Luke Streets and Kovkarl are still absolutely duking it here. This looks to be a real fine contest between the two PCCF cars. No clear indication to who's going to be able to come out on this one on top. As though Dan is right in amongst it as well with Linga Bazinga. Currently around about 1 second or so behind the rear end of Linga. But Booth Jumbo leads the race for now. He's let's have a look over to his tyres. Looks as though actually his tyre temperatures are looking okay. Just going to flash back over to Dan actually. Perhaps it was my graphic just playing up. But I thought I saw him with a very hot front left. Old Smoky still in the pits getting those damage repairs done. Looks as though we're coming across a little bit of traffic here. And Dan makes it through nice and quickly, it seems, over both Linga Bazinga and Chris 94 M Sport. Of course, that was for position, although those guys had come in 4 new tyres. They were racing for position, so Chris 94 M Sport was under no obligation to let them through. It was not a blue flag condition, but Dan now has 8th place ahead of Linga Bazinga on those dry tyres as Chris 94 M Sport comes in for the change. So Booth Jumbo in first place for now. He's still out on the wet tyres. Let's have a look at his lap times. Aren't suffering too badly though until you come down to 8th and 9th position. And Dan is currently lapping 4 seconds a lap quicker than those guys out on the wet tyres. And Old Smokey has had an absolute mare, it seems. He's ruined that BMW once again. I think he's only just come out of the pits. But he's going to have to go back in unless he hadn't gone in for those repairs, and maybe he was just running out with that damaged missed engineering beamer. He's definitely going to be going into the pits sometime soon. But Booth Jumbo, is he going to come into the pits this time around? Nope, looks as though he's going to stick it out for another lap. 25 minutes of the race remaining. He's certainly not going to be able to maintain that lead if he stays out on those dry tyres, with Dan racing 4 seconds a lap quicker than him. Dan has, of course, gone for the fastest lap of the race so far with a 53.506, which was his last lap around, just until he'd set... in fact, no, it still is his last lap around. So the bonus point currently sits with him. He's also going off the current pit strategies on for the race victory here. He's lapping a couple of seconds quicker than Linga Bazinga as things stand. And... the young Belgian really might be able to make this one work for him. Got the strategy just right as we see Old Smokey out and retired in the race. Not surprised, was having an absolutely torrid time in that BMW. And he calls it quits just after the 25-minute remaining mark here at race 2 of the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship. Booth Jumbo still leading. Let's have a look at what's going on with Pro Fub. He's got a bit of air, it seems, to Spankmeyer. Looks to be around about maybe 15 car lengths or so. These guys still on the wet tyres, and you can see how hot that front left of Pro Fubbies gets as it comes out of the third sector. You can see a change for tyres definitely coming soon, as Dan and Linga Bazinga move up a position each, now up into 6th and 7th position. Both those guys running at 54 seconds at the moment on those dry tyres, and you can see there, Pro Fubby just managing to find some spray just to try and cool down his tyres. You can see on the graphic on the top right hand side of your screen how hot that front left is getting. So finding a little bit of water to try and cool that down out on track is a wise move from a touring car veteran. And Spankmeyer sits around about 4 seconds or so. In fact, Spankmeyer is into the pits. He's coming in for dry tyres. I'm not surprised. We've also got S2N Remy also coming in for a set of those dries as well. So that will be Dan and Linga moving further and further up the field. Dan now sits 6.4 seconds away from the back of Luke Streets. Looks as though Porsche Man also into the pits as well. And that looks to be Darnell's number 68 iBack BMW that you can just see in the background there, crabbing all over the course, struggling to keep it together. And I think he's probably been... as he just catches Pro Fubby on his way into the pits. I think Darnell was probably heading to the pits, lost a little bit of control, and Pro Fubby will be absolutely fuming with that. Didn't look as though he lost out too much. Just a little bit of a rear end slide. That's probably half a second cost though. As he heads into the pits, that is also Luke Streets in the pits behind him, as well as we see the Monster Energy of Porsche Man exiting the pits. So race leader is Booth Jumbo with Kovkarl in second. Both of these guys still on their wet tyres, but Dan and Linga Bazinga are in third and fourth position. In fact, Dan is just coming around into the third sector now, and this is going to be the race lead this time around if Kovkarl comes in. Let's see whether or not he does. Kovkarl is losing around about 3 seconds a lap. Kovkarl's going to stick it out, it seems. see that I-back BMW of Darnell just moving alongside and letting the front runners through. That is now a blue flag condition. So down now up into second place. Linga Bazinga into third. Booth Jumbo gets moved down into fourth with his pit stop. Pro Fubby has come back out on track in seventh position. He's going to have to try and get some real quick laps together now if he wants to try and get in and around the top five and capitalise on Booth Jumbo's what seems to be pretty extended pit. I can only assume that there's a little bit of damage there because it's taken a while to change those tyres, but he is back away from his pit box now. And what was happening with Linga Bazinga there? I thought he was off the track for a second. Just saw him moving all the way alongside, and looks as though he's since been able to get it back together. S2N Remy coming very close and holding up the field. He needs to move along the side. Bit of a dangerous re-entry there from the rookie Belgian, rookie Dutchman should I say. It is his first race out here, but he should be aware if there's cars approaching under the blue flag conditions, move away from the line. So Dan leads the race, Linga Bazinga in second. Kovkarl comes into the pits in the end in third position. But Al Axon has been able to capitalise on it. He had a stinker of a qualifying session, but consistency is key. He is still out on those wet tyres though. Is he going to be able to hold out for 20 minutes? I doubt he is. Setting 57.5 second laps. He's definitely going to come under pressure from the guys behind him. Let's have a look at what lap times we've got coming in from the likes of Pro Fubby. Spankmeyer is putting in 56.4s that last time around. Pro Fubby hasn't yet completed his lap. We'll wait and see on that one. It's still showing up as a 1 minute 35. There it is, 57 seconds on those dry tyres. I think he'll just be trying to get used to them ever so slightly. He's going to have to try and pick up that pace. 18 minutes and 40 seconds remaining inside race 2 here of the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship. And what a roller coaster it's been. Linga Bazinga ended up taking pole position after a penalty from Dan. A stunning final lap of the session. Actually saw Dan set in the fastest lap, but he did get a one-place grid penalty which pushed him down onto the second spot of the grid. Linga Bazinga held it off for quite a while, and then Dan just ended up snipping it up as we came to the end of the rain here within the session. And despite the cloud coverage here, the track temperatures have peaked up, so those on wet tyres are really going to start to struggle here with grip. Those tyres away from the tyre temperature will just start to give away, and you'll start to understeer like crazy in these front wheel drive cars if you're running wet tyres on a dry track. And there we can see who's that. Is that Luke Streets? It's not. It's actually Kovkarl. Kovkarl spinning it around on the second to last. He manages to get it back together, but that is now 10th place. And one little mistake has cost him pretty dearly there from the veteran. Finds himself with a mountain to climb and only 17.5 minutes to do so. Back over to our race leader, and it's still tooth and nail between the Belgian of Dan and the Dutchman of Linga Bazinga. Linga Bazinga having a right good sniff of the rear of that red and yellow Megane here. Let's jump into the cockpit of Linga Bazinga. Let's have a look what he's seeing up into turn 1. Both cars deciding to run a little bit wide and using the full extent of the runoff into turn 2. And we can see the difference in line there. We see Dan just stepping out ever so slightly. Linga Bazinga looking much more composed, and he's able to get the attack on for turns 3 and 4, where we're still actually kicking up a bit of a puddle, it seems. Linga Bazinga's got the drive. Is he going to be able to make it move around the outside coming into the second to last? Looks as though he's just got his nose ahead, but he's going to have to dip away just because he doesn't want to run too wide into the final corner. He's going to try and get the measure of the young Belgian all over again into lap 31 now of this race. Bazinga just making his presence known there up the inside. Don't think he was going to get any moves done, but he's just trying to apply that pressure. I imagine a few flashes of the lights, and that looks as though it's a flash from, I think it's Wardy there in 11th place, just to allow the front runners through. That's what we like to see here at Flux Motorsport. Good bit of racing etiquette, letting the cars ahead continue to battle on. Just letting them know that he's given them a spot. A familiar face has just popped up on my YouTube chat. Good evening, Lucy, out there supporting Al, currently running in 4th place. Good to see you once again for another season, hoping for a better one this time around for Al Axon. He had an absolute mare last season, but it looks as though it's turned around. He has lost out on that 3rd place position from Booth Jumbo, but I think with how it went, he'll be happy if he can keep on to that 4th place. He is, of course, 3rd in the championship coming into this 2nd race of the championship. But he'll certainly be able to build upon the 4th place. 25 points given should he manage to hold on to it. He has got Spankmeyer running behind him, around about a second a lap quicker. So we'll wait and see what happens in the final stages of this race. Let's have a look what's going on with Luke Streets and Pro Fubby. Pro Fubby now chasing down Luke Streets, who's made a good impact here in the number 19 PCCF. Held off Kovkal for a large proportion of this race. He's obviously got his defensive driving down to a T, and at the previous lap he actually ran about 2/10 quicker than Pro Fubby. Looks as though we had Dan and Linga Bazinga actually changing places there. We just saw it ahead of them, that race going on. Dan momentarily lost out on 1st position to Linga Bazinga. He's since been able to get it back. And looks as though Pro Fubby's just not able to close up on the back of Luke Streets at the moment. So let's get back over to that battle between the 2 leaders. And for those of you that may have missed the introduction earlier on, welcome to Flux Motorsport. This is what we do best. Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship, door-to-door action from start to finish. Nothing but the cleanest of racing, as well as you've been able to see for the best part, or in fact over half an hour now, as we see Linga Bazinga having a little look over the outside. Dan's going to be able to keep it together, I do believe, unless he runs too deep through turn 1. Looks as though he's been able to sustain it. Linga Bazinga has got the drive though. He's just not got the inside line for this next turn coming into turn 2. As I was saying, you will be able to check out the GT1 action, 8 PM UK time, which is around about 3 in the afternoon if you're watching Eastern Standard Time. That comes live and direct Thursday, presented by DJ Redders. Unfortunately, McToasty, I say unfortunately, won't be joining us. He's actually on a holiday stroke vacation with his family, so we hope that he enjoys that. That's actually going to be hosted by Giacomo this week, but DJ Redders on the mic. And I think we can all agree what a fantastic job he did in his championship debut in the booth last time around. Then on Friday night Eastern Standard Time, 8 PM, you'll be able to check out the GTE cars. That comes around about 1 in the morning, Saturday morning if you're watching here in the UK or around Europe. Looks as though we've got a few back markers now as Al Axon struggles to get out of the way as these 2 cars are still hot lapping around, chasing for the victory with 12 minutes left to go. And following on from the GTE race on Saturday morning if you're watching in the UK, around about 1 AM or 8 PM Eastern Standard Time on Saturday night, you'll be able to check out the Indy cars taking on the challenge of Willow Springs. Colin Hicks bringing you all of the action from our American series from that one. And also we are now in round 2 of our Dirt Rally 2.0 Championship. To get involved into all of this action, as well as our community challenges and all of the community races that you'll find during the week, you just need to hit us up on our website, www.fluxmotorsport.com. You'll find a link within the website to join us, which will take you through via Discord, which is a completely free app no matter which device you may have. I'm pretty sure it'll work on just about anything you want to throw at it. And of course it's completely free. All we ask for is a little bit of information on your way in, and then you'll be greeted by a member of our team as well as the rest of the community, and then we'll be seeing you out on action either in our championships or within our community lobbies, away from all of those pesky rammers, dodgers and dive bombers inside those public lobbies as soon as possible. Lap 37 has now commenced. Dan continues to lead ahead of Linga Bazinga with 10 minutes and 50 seconds remaining inside this one. Looks as though Pro Fubby has been able to get past Luke, but Luke is definitely not giving it up without a fight. Let's jump into the cockpit here of Al Axon in the number 11 air bubbles. We'll be able to get a good view of all of that battle that's going on ahead of them. Luke Streets in the turquoise and white PCCF car. Pro Fubby in that number 55 eMochi. See the cars now avoiding that that puddle, which remains certainly not a pillow. Definitely not comfortable hitting that on dry tyres. You can see, unfortunate for Al Axon, just the sort of pace that he's losing out here on those two guys ahead of him. It's around about 2 seconds a lap for that last one. I think it's going to be even more just looking at the sector times. Let's get back up and involved. This is on board with Linga Bazinga, chasing down Dan as he has been for a lot of this race. Very evenly matched, and Linga Bazinga is really impressed. Coming in from the GT1 Championship, he is, of course, our GT1 champion from last season and the season before that, I do believe. And yeah, he's always made a name for himself in the rear-wheel drives of the GT3s and pretty much anything that you throw at him. And I was expecting him to run pretty well inside, you know, any car that he races inside Project Cars 2, but I wasn't expecting him to be up and around fighting with the big boys at the front of the touring cars in his maiden season. And he really has made a dramatic impression, proving that he is one of the top caliber drivers here at Flux Motorsport. And just see him there attacking the entrance to turn 1, maybe just catching a little bit too much of that sausage curb. It just scrubbed off a little bit too much speed, but he's definitely carrying more momentum than the young Belgian here through that first half of the lap. The battle between Luke Streets and Pro Fubby continues to remain on, but I want to stick with the leaders now as we enter the final 8.5 minutes of this race. And look how much Linga Bazinga is able to gain. A little bit of a love tap there, just making his presence known. Just trying to read those bumper stickers, I think. Linga Bazinga, all to be expected in the touring cars. Definitely not a ram or anything like that, so he's still good to go. You can see him really ragging that 6-speed gearbox, and he's made a move around the outside. And let's have a look over to the track cam. Let's see whether or not he can make this one stick. I think he's going to have to go the long way around turn 2. He's not going to be able to get that one done. Let's see whether or not he can carry some momentum into turn 3 and 4. Don't think he's going to be able to. Not enough to regain that position. So very young brain on Dan VWB, but he's definitely got the track know-how to stick to his guns. I know that he'll be able to claim that position back. Linga Bazinga sniffing all over the back of him, just not able to get past, as he's not been able to for the last, I'd say, 15-20 minutes or so. Real good battle between these two. And the battle does continue as well between Pro Fubby and Luke Streets. Looks as though Wardy has also caught up to Kovkarl after Kovkarl's misadventures in and around the pit lane. I think he might have caught a little bit too much of the exit. He did have to pit after that as well, so whether or not he came in for damage repairs, I'm not too sure. But Danny's going to lead this one into the final 5 minutes, I believe. Linga Bazinga's second place. Booth Jumbo did very well indeed to hold out as long as he could on those wet tyres to remain in third place. He sits around about 21 seconds ahead of Pro Fubby at the moment. Pro Fubby, meanwhile, is coming under increasing pressure from Luke Streets. Let's have a look at what's going on between these two. We will keep our eye out on the boys racing ahead of them. Linga Bazinga has fallen about 3 tenths back to Dan though, so it looks as though we're pretty safe to flip on and see what's going on for third and fourth place. Fourth and fifth place. We are on lap 42 from our front runners. These guys are a lap back currently, and Profubby just looks as though he's a little bit calmer through that sort of S section, and coming into the final sector as well, just a little bit less dramatic. Let's see what happens under braking though, because Luke Streets is definitely making up the time somewhere. Entering the final 5 minutes, Luke's just having a little look up the inside, making that presence known. I don't think he's going to be making any moves, but just trying to do whatever he can to try and off-put Profubby. Let's get back over to our leaders, because it looks as though we've almost reached a bit of a stalemate here, just waiting for somebody to make a mistake, and that doesn't happen often with Profubby. So back for the battle for the race victory. 5 minutes remaining inside this session. Linga Bazinga is actually having a little look around the outside. We're going to see a bit of a cutback here. Don't think he's going to be able to. Dan has got the inside line covered. Linga Bazinga runs off a little bit. Kept away from the grass though, which will still be pretty wet after the initial rain within this session. Cloud is light here. That's sent the track temperatures right up, but all of the field now out on dry tyres, so nothing to worry about really. Just want to keep away from the artificial or the real grass around this Red Bull circuit. Certainly not going to help the grip, and it's not as though you've got any long straights to try and sort of scrub off any mud that you might pick up. Right back into it in this 6-turn wonder of the Zuidschleife. Just 1.45 miles, which is why we're now on lap 44. Just coming up to lap 45 within our 45-minute session. So Linga Bazinga take pole position within the qualifying time. That was down to a pit lane penalty incurred by Dan. Let's have a look at the timing board, see if there's any penalties to be applied. In fact, it is as well. Linga Bazinga is definitely not going to put on too much pressure, because he's going to take the race victory so long as he keeps his penalties down to a minimum. Down with a 5-second penalty in total, which puts him just 4 seconds or so behind Linga Bazinga should they cross the line in this current state. Boot Jumbo with 2 seconds. Chris M Sport with a 3-second penalty. And just having a look, Chris M Sport is just behind Luke Streets, it seems. So that's going to push him even further behind the Dutchman. As we see the Monster Energy there of Porsche Man just moving alongside. Oh, it looks as though we might have just caught somebody. Who's that he's just caught in the background? Is it the BMW? I think it is. I think it's the BMW of Darnell, I believe. Darnell is a lap back, but did have an opportunity there to unlap himself, it seemed. I'm sure the stewards will have a look into it if it does get reported to them. Of course, we do run a full stewards inquiry panel here, but there's definitely been nothing to look for between Linga Bazinga and Dan throughout this one. Linga Bazinga does have the lead. Is he going to be able to hold it? Just missed the move that happened. It was definitely up on screen at least, but I was too busy focusing on what was happening going on in the background. So it must have been taken into turn 1 or on the start-finish straight. Anybody that's watching at the moment can correct me, but hopefully you caught it out there. 2 minutes remaining inside this session. Dan will be hungry to try and take that position back, but he's going to want to make sure he doesn't risk too much. He does have a 4-second penalty deficit to Linga Bazinga. So it's only if Linga makes a mistake that he's going to be able to take this victory. He's mainly racing for pride, I think, if he wants to try and take that position. Just having a little scoot through now to try and see who is our fastest lap of the race. It is Linga Bazinga, actually, with a 52.704. That is just 66 thousandths of a second quicker than Dan VWB's hot lap, which comes up into second place. So Linga Bazinga actually looks as though he might be in line for the Triple Crown here. Pole position, race victory and fastest lap. He just needs to hold out for another minute, which is going to be another couple of laps as they begin lap 48. What a stunning race it's been between these two. Big shout out as well to Booth Jumbo for holding on in there. He's got 16 seconds to Pro Fubby, but his strategy definitely worked for him. Also worth mentioning, Pro Fubby put in a pretty solid effort to try and bring back into that, but he has been battling with Luke Streets. In fact, that battle not over. Less than half a second between one another as things stand. Yep, less than half a second between those two as we begin our final lap of the race. And what a race it's been here. Race 2 around the Red Bull Ring National Circuit in its Südschleife layout. Dan still hungry to try and take that track position back. It wouldn't be for the points unless the timing boards have changed. They haven't. Looks as though Linga Bazinga has got an extra second penalty, but Dan still has 3 seconds worth of deficit to the Dutchman leading the race. And they're coming into the second to last corner for the final time here, and it's been an absolute epic battle. Pleasure to commentate onto into the final corner, but it is going to be the race victory for the Dutchman in Linga Bazinga, racing in the number 25 Hakeem Renault Megane, and he takes it pretty clear from the number 1 Momo Corsa Renault Megane of Dan. Booth Jumbo is going to come around in 3rd position. Just coming up, and in fact he's crossed the line it seems. Pro Fubby ends the race in 4th with Luke Streets. Great debut race from him, finishing up in 5th place in the number 19 PCCF. Well done as well to Chris 94 M Sport. Actually ran really well inside that Graventech Astra. He finished 7th last week. He's going to improve upon that this week for our springtime special event champion. Al Axon comes across in 7th place with Spankmeyer in 8th, who looked as though he got himself into a bit of mischief at the midpoint. And following on from that, Porsche man in 9th place, Darnell in 10th for his first outing in the BMW. S2N Remy finishing up in 11th with Kovkarl in 12th, Wardy in 13th, and then the rest of our drivers retired for that one. What a fantastic race. Congratulations to our race winner here with Linga Bazinga. I'm sure he'll be celebrating tonight. He's showing up as a Brit here, but he is a Dutchman. He'll be cracking open one of Holland's finest tonight, I'm sure. Also, fantastic racing there as well to Dan VWB, the young Belgian who really stuck it to Linga Bazinga throughout that entire race. He wasn't racing for position due to penalties that were incurred, but he certainly showed the colour of his mettle, and I do believe that that's going to set him up pretty nicely in terms of the championship show. Booth Jumbo finishing up in 3rd as well. His first podium on his first outing in this season, with Pro Fubby narrowly missing out on it, and that's the first time that Pro Fubby has fallen outside of the podium for, I think it might be 7 races. So Linga Bazinga with the Triple Crown, the pole position, the fastest lap, and the race victory. So that's going to be all 37 points, I beg your pardon, to him. I've been Murphy GBR. Thank you very much for joining me. In fact, I think you should be thanking me and the rest of our field for what an epic race that was. Remember, you can tune in on Thursday night, 8 p.m. UK time, around about 3 in the afternoon if you're watching Eastern Standard Time, for DJ Redders and Giacomo hosting the GT1s around the Le Mans Bugatti circuit. And other than that, we will see you next week for Imola. What a great race that'll be. Take care, everyone. Have a good week ahead, and we will see you again next week.